Well, tune up. It's time for another edition of Sales Pipeline Radio, where we don't just surf the web, we're riding the sales pipeline. With the samurai of sales himself, Mr. Matt Hines. How are you?
Oh, my gosh. Is that an upgrade? I went from the big kahuna to the samurai of sales.
Samurai of sales. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. I am not worthy of any of these monikers at all. But we are very excited to have everyone here for Sales Pipeline Radio, now weekly, every Thursday at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. We're sitting here today. It's the first day of second quarter of 2016. It is April 7th. So I hope everyone listening had a great Q1, a great end of March. Certainly a great way, hopefully, to set up the new year, the rest of the new year. But even if you didn't hit your number, it's a new month. It's a new quarter. It's now the beginning of the rest of the year. And I think our speaker today is going to be able to talk a little bit about that and the right mindset that you want to have. Whether you hit your number, whether you didn't hit your number, keeping the right mindset and the mental game of selling is so, so important. So excited to have Matt Mayberry here today to talk about that. Got some great guests coming up. If you've missed some of our past episodes, you can check those out at salespipelineradio.com. We've got all of our past guests, great transcripts. We've got re-recordings of all the episodes. If you're commuting, if you want to listen to some of our past episodes while you're working out, we are on iTunes now as well. We're on Google Play. Just look for Sales Pipeline Radio, and you will find us. I think was it last week or a couple weeks ago? We had the first Thursday of March Madness is when we had one of our specials and one of our episodes, and certainly a distracting day. I don't know if that's. I actually think that the first day of the March Madness tournament might now compete with the first day of the Masters tournament. Now that we've got the Masters online, I look around our office this morning, and awful lot of people with dual monitors doing double duty. I think no matter what your sport, I think. You're going to appreciate today's guest. We have former NFL linebacker and current motivational speaker, Matt Mayberry. I met Matt first time at an Association of Inside Sales Professionals event. He has spoken at a number of these, and he does not have a sales background, but I think his insights and message are perfect for those that are in the trenches of sales on a regular basis. So, Matt, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, maybe your story is for those of you that aren't familiar with Matt. I definitely encourage you to go to his website, Matt Mayberry online. It's just MATT and then MAYBERRY online.com. You can read a little more about Matt and his story. But Matt, maybe just to get the elevator pitch of sort of your background and how you became a speaker and motivator that you're such as you're doing today.
I was born in Darien, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, Illinois. I had two wonderful parents growing up, really provided me and my younger brother with, everything that we needed to grow into be fine young men and make a difference in society. But somewhere down the line for me when I took a negative turn in life came high school. When I entered high school, we've all been there before, whether, we as individuals experience that or our children with the peer pressure increases, the ability to make more wrong decisions. And that's exactly what happened to me. I started to hang around with drug addicts, people that were living life in just such a negative way. No respect for my elders, ditching school, failing nearly every single class. To kind of put in perspective for you about how bad the drugs were for me, my mother has seen me do cocaine 5 times. I got kicked off my baseball team as a sophomore because I got caught stealing one of my teammates' wallets because I saw the money in the wallet and thought of all the drugs that I could buy. So long story short, I had an epiphany one night when I was at below rock bottom when my guidance counselor told me that I'd either be going to jail or end up dead before my 18th birthday. And this was at 16 years old that I kind of turned my life around for the better. And I was going to a drug treatment facility, and I came home one night and had the courage to look myself in the mirror for the first time in 3 years. And, I just saw all the terrible things that I've done, all the tears that I put on my family's face, my mother and father, all the sacrifices they made. And, that moment was a pivotal moment in as far as I wanted a bigger future for myself. And that's literally when I set a goal to get a Division I college scholarship. Everyone laughed at me, told me I was, a teenage drug addict. I was throwing my life away. I'm a scumbag. There's no way I can create anything special in my life. And I literally tuned out all the negative, pessimists that said I couldn't do that and couldn't become successful. And A year later, after a ridiculous second-to-none work ethic, as I like to call it, and literally perfecting my craft as a football player, the only sport left I had at that time, I had 19 Division I college scholarship offers from some of the biggest football programs. I ended up going to Indiana. Great career there. Ended up getting the opportunity to then play for my hometown team, the Chicago Bears, to then hitting another big failure in my life where I got hurt my very first game as a pro, playing the San Diego Chargers, where I tore a bone off of my ankle. And at that moment, what I thought was one of my lowest moments of all time, I didn't necessarily think of suicide or killing myself or anything of that nature, but I did think about how wonderful it would be to be dead rather than go through life right now. And 2 weeks into that injury, I get a phone call from Stedman Graham, who's Oprah Winfrey's boyfriend of 30-plus years. And he asked me if I wanted to speak at a leadership event. And at that time, I had no prior speaking experience. I was in a miserable place in my life, but something deep within me told me to take that opportunity. And 6 years later, it's a full-time business. I have a team of 6 people. I give around 95 keynotes a year to Fortune 500, 1,000 companies. And my book, Winning Plays, a top athlete's advice for tackling adversity and being success. So that's kind of a shortened version of my story as to how I got into doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's great. I think, I want to get into some examples of, some of the lessons that you have for just professionals in business of all different types, especially for salespeople. Sure. And I want to talk a little more about the book as well. But, you mentioned something. It's funny. First of all, just tearing the muscle off the bone. I just shudder to think about that. But you referenced that as a failure. And what's interesting is, first of all, I think about, getting injured. It's sometimes, it's the sports. It happens. But I think of that as a turning point, right? I mean, I think that you clearly used it as that. And I think about, people listening and thinking, boy, it stinks that you weren't able to continue in that career. But A, you played in the NFL, and B, you immediately saw that, maybe not immediately, but you converted that into an opportunity to create a successful career like you have today. So talk about, and I've heard you talk about this on stage, the difference between, failures and then sort of thinking of those as turning points and opportunities to find the next phase of your own success.
Well, Matt, when you really think of it, what is failure? We all have our different views and opinions and definitions of what success and failure is. I think everyone, if you talk to 10 people, I think 9 of those 10 people are going to have a different opinion on what failure really means to them. I think failure really to us is just a different result than what we originally wanted. So if we set a goal, we get a different result than the goal we hit. For me, I wanted to play a long career in the NFL. So I couldn't control getting hurt. As an athlete, especially in the NFL, there's no such thing as controlling your destiny as far as injury. It really is a luck, staying healthy once you get to that level. So I couldn't do anything about that. But it was a failure in my eyes because I saw that hey, I might not have a long career in the NFL. I finally made it. I overcame all the drugs, all the negative turmoil in my life, and I'm right back down. So that's why I saw it as a big failure. But to answer your question, when you really start to look at it, and when I had the opportunity to speak that night with Stedman, it really was a springboard of an opportunity for me to really redefine what failure really is. I personally, even though I talk about failure a lot, I don't believe there is a real failure until you're able not to see that. I only think it's failure when you're not able to see the opportunity to move forward and build upon whatever disappointment or setback that currently is. I think that ultimately what is failure, that's really what it stands for.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We're talking to Matt Mayberry, former NFL linebacker who has converted himself and his career into a very successful keynote speaker. He speaks, as you mentioned, over 95 keynotes a year. I've seen him a number of times in front of inside sales groups. If you are doing any type of sales meeting, any type of sales kickoff, and any type of business meeting, highly encourage you to check him out at mattmayberryonline.com. Let's talk a little bit about the mental side of the game. And when I say the game, I'm really being sort of general about that. I mean, you talk about what it required mentally for you to reach, literally the highest level of your sport. And then how does that same kind of mindset convert into a business environment, and particularly for sales professionals?
Sure. Well, I love that you started off with the game, because I think really we're all in this game of life. Regardless if we're in sales or we're a professional athlete, first and foremost, we're all in the game of life. And to be successful in the game of life, or to be successful in sales, or to be successful as a professional athlete, you have to win in your mind before you win at your profession. So in order for me to become a professional athlete and play in the NFL, I had to first have a certain mindset about myself and go about my business every single day and work on my mind in a specific way that was going to springboard my success as an athlete, as a football player. And, this all goes back to working on your mind, reading books that lift you up, hanging around people that are going to make you better, constantly finding ways to grow and nourish your mind, I think is a starting point to really develop that winner's mindset that I've been able to see in some of the most top athletes in the world compared to some of the most successful business people. And the correlation is extraordinary, Matt. When I go into a top, Fortune 500 company such as Lowe's or, DuPont, Shell, Apple, AT&T, whatever it may be, the top executives have the same mindset as a Brian Urlacher or someone that I played with in the NFL. The correlation to winning in the mind is extraordinary, whether you're talking about, the NFL or winning in business.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think what's interesting to me though is there a difference between having that mindset, which is critical, right? You start the day, you start your career, we're sitting here at the beginning of the month, beginning of the quarter for sales professionals.
Mm-hmm.
That mindset is important, but as Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So Is there a difference between having that mindset up front and getting yourself through the daily grind, getting yourself through the week, getting you through those more tactical tough times? And I think, especially when I think about salespeople, they have among the toughest jobs, if not the toughest job in the organization. They face rejection multiple times on a daily basis. Is there a different mindset or a different strategy that folks have to have when they face adversity in the midst of execution after starting with a good mindset?
Sure. And I think really, before I answer that question, I absolutely love going into sales organizations. If I had to pick, I would probably say the financial industry and sales are, two of my most, in-demand organizations that I go into. But I absolutely love speaking to sales professionals because they understand, they got a lot of negativity surrounding them. They have to hit certain quotas. They're going to get told no more than they are going to be told yes. They have a lot of adversity day in and day out. And the same thing as an athlete. You're going to lose games. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to make a wrong play. You're going to lose the championship. You're going to make your team, mess up and cause a big error that was your fault. So the correlation between the two is extraordinary. And that's why, I think to answer your question, I think first and foremost, you have to have a ridiculous self-belief in yourself. When you ask how was I able to go in the NFL, after I was able to make that transition from being a teenage drug addict, I was able to I found something special within myself. I realized that if I really want to make my life meaningful and special, I have to believe in myself and that I have what it takes. And the easiest way to do that is to look at someone else. If they've been able to do what they've been able to do, then you could do whatever it is you want to do. And I think you have to develop ways. Positive self-talk is an excellent way. Some people listen, they might be like, what the hell is that? I'm not going to talk to myself. And well, this isn't to say go in public and talk to yourself, but find ways to encourage yourself, to build your self-esteem up, when you don't hit your quota, when you are told no more than you are told yes. So I think positive self-talk is a great way. And then, setting goals that are meaningful to us. I think so many people look at what other people have or want or are doing, and they get caught in the trap of comparing where they are compared to where someone else is. And you just have to focus on getting better every single day, which in return, that's eventually going to build your self-esteem and help build your mindset as well.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, we're talking to Matt Mayberry today, former NFL linebacker, current speaker, columnist for Entrepreneur Magazine. Got a lot more we're going to cover with Matt and talk a little more about how his experience it relates back to sales professionals as well. You've been listening to Sales Pipeline Radio.
In a world where the speed of innovation and change in B2B marketing has never been greater, the only thing bigger is the need for clarity, for a blueprint, for a guide to what's really. It encompasses the entire sales and marketing pipeline, but in quick bursts with lots of specific, actionable ideas and strategies and tactics you can put to work right away, like today. The loaded table of contents helps you narrow in and tackle a problem. Maybe something you're looking at right now on your desk, right in front of you as you're listening to this. It's also there as a resource that you can come back when you need something new to inspire you, to open your eyes, to give you some task or idea to do next. It's all that and more, and it's waiting for you free, the Modern Marketer's Field Guide at HeinzMarketing.com. That's HEINZ marketing.com.
Whether you're producing a seminar series, users conference, lunch and learn, or exhibiting at a trade show, Validar has a solution. From capturing leads at trade shows to managing on-site registration, tracking session attendance, gathering information, and providing sponsors lead retrieval, we have a full suite of solutions for you. Since 2005, Validar has been turning corporate events and trade shows into better business. Call 888-784-2929 or visit us at validar.com.
And now back to Matt and his guest as they tackle more topics.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks very much. Welcome everyone back to Sales Pipeline Radio. Like I mentioned before, if you've missed some of our past episodes, if you're new to the show, definitely encourage you to check out salespipelineradio.com. You'll find a lot of our past episodes up there. You can read the transcripts. You can listen on demand to any of the past episodes we've had, including very shortly the episode with our guest today, Matt Mayberry. Joining us every week on Thursday at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific. Next week, we're going to be featuring Mark Magnaca. He is the author of a book called So What? How to Communicate What Really Matters to Your Audience. He has been a great resource for corporate sales managers, really is a great communicator. Super excited to have him talking about some of his new work, his new content. So join us next week for Mark Magnaca. Should be another great episode. Matt, want to go back and just talk a little bit about sort of that killer mentality, and it's interesting as I sit here and I've got one of the screens, with the Masters, and Jordan Spieth here Thursday morning is completing his first round up. Surprise, surprise, he's in the lead. And I think you hear a lot about people like Jordan Spieth, Derek Jeter. I remember watching the women's college basketball tournament past week, and Breanna Stewart from UConn. They were talking about how she's just developed this sort of killer mindset, right? Where she just literally wants to eat her opponents for breakfast. And I think there's some people that they bristle a little bit at going that far. They worry that develops a level of arrogance that doesn't really play well for them. And yet it seems to be a consistent mentality that you referenced earlier that a lot of the most successful professional athletes and successful business leaders have. Is that a requirement for the mindset to be consistently successful? And is there a way somehow to justify or to balance that arrogance with a level of sort of humanity and approachability as well?
Yeah, I think, you kind of hit it on the head there about is finding that balance. I think if you look at the Kobe Bryants of the world, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Walter Payton, the list goes on of just, the extraordinary Steve Jobs, any high achiever that has ever done anything remarkable in this world, you have realized that they just have a ridiculous self-belief in themselves. And to some people, that comes off as arrogance and cocky. And I think there is a fine line between having great self-belief in yourself and knowing that you have more than whatever it takes to get the job done and that you will do just that. But I also think, especially in an athlete, you got to respect your opponent and go about things in a single way. I think you have to be a winner across all boards, and that really consists of having a great self-belief in yourself, but also showing, compassion for the opponents and competitors and in that case. So I think it really comes a fine line between having a ridiculous self-belief in yourself, but not being over the board as far as cocky goes.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen examples of people in sports and business that that have that killer mentality, but just that they're jerks, and it's it's become very apparent. I mean, I've heard you tell stories of even in your time with the Bears, the time you spent with Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, two All-Pro linebackers that clearly were very successful on the field in part because they had that killer instinct, but that they were very generous with you, who's coming on as a rookie that usually gets rookie status, but that they were good for you as well, and that so I think that's a good example to me of having that combined mentality. Talk a little bit about your own business. I mean, I think it's very impressive to me, and I know for others that have heard you speak, that what you have built in really a very short amount of time. I mean, you're a young guy, you've got a successful business that you're growing, but anyone that has grown a business knows that is not a clean, clear, linear path. Talk about, if you wouldn't mind, like an example or two of some of the adversity you've faced as you've grown your own business and how you've applied some of your own lessons to break through that.
Sure. When I first started, I really wasn't expecting to grow a business, believe it or not. I wasn't expecting to travel around the world and speak. When I took that first speaking engagement, I really didn't know what to think of it, but afterwards I literally stepped off stage, and you probably heard me say this when you heard me speak, is that I knew right then and there that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I literally had an awakening that really discovered me to my true purpose and passion in life. And I think that really stems from everything. When you ask how have I been able to build what I have built, it really comes from me being extremely obsessed and passionate with what I'm doing. This is what I was put here to do. And I kind of tell the story as to how I turned down an offer from the Oakland Raiders. When I had a second chance after my injury to play in the NFL, and my own parents and, closest family and friends couldn't believe that I just passed up an opportunity after getting a second chance to possibly play in the NFL again. But that's how serious I am about what it is I do now and the work that I do. And I really believe that it's my life's work. So I think if you are truly passionate about what it is you do, you have a great chance of persevering through all failures and adversities that you are going to experience along the way. And you're going to be that more passionate and ready to put in the amount of work that it takes to run a successful business. As I'm sure you know, it's not for the faint of heart. 18, 19-hour days. I still work 18 hours a day. I work 7 days a week. Out of 365 days out of the year, I'm probably gone 280 of those days. I'm constantly looking to add value in ways that I just are over-delivering in multiple different ways. So for me, it's always trying to take massive action and deliver. I think a lot of people don't focus a lot on executing in the long game. And I think executing in the right here, right now, let's not just think about something. Let's take massive action, as well as where do I want to be 5 or 10, 15 years from now? So those are really two things that have really been able to help me in building a successful business.
No, that's great. Thank you. So first of all, congratulations. That's huge. I think your overall story, like where you've come from, the diversity you face, the success you have now. It's amazing. And I think another point you sort of referenced, and you make a lot on stages, is this: there really are no shortcuts. This takes an amazing amount of really hard work if you really want something. But if you're motivated and you really want it, that hard work, it's worth it. The journey's worth it. The destination's worth it. Before we run out of time here at the top of the hour, definitely want to get a chance to have you talk about the new book. I know it's coming out a little later this year. Talk about the book, what it's about, and what people could expect from it.
Sure. Well, it's titled, as I mentioned before, Winning Plays, a top athlete's advice for tackling adversity and achieving success. And the book is really, it's really cool. It's written in a narrative nonfiction, so it's not a memoir, but my story's in the book. So I kind of go a lot more in depth than what you heard me speak on stage or what I do in my, keynote presentations. It's really about, when you ask what does this book stand for? My goal of it is to really redefine what failure means and give you a proven process on how to turn any failure into a gift, and really an opportunity for a breakthrough success on top of that adversity. And I share a unique 7-step process on how to turn any failure, any adversity into a breakthrough and gift. And I kind of break that down in depth in the book. And really, I want this book to really not only impact people who are going through a tough time, but I want this to impact leaders and executives and anyone that wants to make a lasting difference in success in their personal and professional life.
That's awesome. That book, again, Winning Plays, a top athlete's advice for tackling adversity and achieving success. It's launching September 6th. It's a ways away, but it's on Amazon already. If you want to pre-order a copy of that, just go to Amazon.com. You can search for Matt Mayberry. You can find the book. If you want to learn a little more about Matt in the meantime, definitely check out Matt Mayberry online. He's not only a great speaker, but is a great writer. Has been published an entrepreneur. You can sign up for some of his insights online. Just some awesome stuff. So thanks again, Matt, so much for joining us today. If you want to hear about Matt again, if you want to hear another replay of this episode today, you can do that at salespipelinerradio.com. We will have a on-demand replay of today's episode on there. We will also have Matt's transcript of highlights from his talk today up on our blog at heinzmarketing.com, as well as up on salespipelinerradio.com. As I mentioned before, some great guests coming up over the next few weeks. We literally have guest booked now up until June, and are really excited about just the momentum we have for the show, the audience that we're getting, just very humbled by what this has become in a very short amount of time. So definitely join us next week. We're going to have Mark Magnacca. He's the author of So What? How to Communicate What Really Matters to Your Audience. Excited to have him. Some other upcoming guests include Dave Crenshaw, the author of Myth of Multitasking, Jay Baer's new book, Hug Your Haters. Excited to have him and a lot of other great guests coming up. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the Masters tournament. Enjoy the improving weather. Good luck this month, this quarter. We'll see you here next time, next Thursday. This is Sales Pipeline Radio.
You've been riding the waves with Matt Heinz from Heinz Marketing as he surfs the sales pipeline. Thursdays here at 11 a.m. on OC Talk Radio and the SLMA Live Radio Network.